real honor to come alongside of the company and just basically add value to you, help you to grow in your own self so that you can grow people, to develop yourself so that you can develop others and build a great team. Here's what I know. When you're trying to help people and adding value to people, if you're on a team and you're doing it together, it's more fun, it's easier, and it's more successful. I just talked about leadership, and I shared with the conference that everything rises and falls on leadership, and that what they really need to do more than anything else is they need to learn how to lead. And if they can learn how to lead, and if they can learn how to influence people, then they can succeed and build a great business. I've learned a long time ago that if I can equip people to train and develop other people, they'll not only add to the value of their own life, but they'll multiply their success. So we just talked about how they can grow as a person so they can grow the people that they're leading, and how they can learn to lead so they can influence more people and multiply and then grow their business to a greater level than they've ever grown it before. Would I come running home to you? If you're going to grow, you have to grow on purpose. That it's not an accident. You have to be intentional in your personal growth. And that you will only succeed to the degree that you're intentional, and you only succeed to the development of your own self and how much you can grow. You cannot give what you do not have, and so you have to grow yourself to be able to grow others. Today really matters, and the fact that you have to make today your masterpiece. So many times people talk about a dream and they think of tomorrow, but I said the dream has to happen today. If you do the right thing today, and you continue to do the right thing every day, the dream will be yours. But the dream doesn't come to you, you have to go to it. The dream's free, but the journey's not. They have to pay a price if they really want to see that dream and that journey come to fruition. We talked a lot about success and the fact that success is knowing our purpose in life, growing to our maximum potential, and then sowing seeds that benefit others. And I truly believe that that's what helps people to be successful. And I share those thoughts today with the people of Fusion because that's exactly what I want for you. I want you to develop and learn and experience success for yourself and add value to other people.
Well, regardless of where you're at in life, there's always room for personal growth. And to help you with some core principles for being all that you can be, I have invited international speaker and author John Maxwell. Well, John, you've just studied personal growth and written, an amazing number of wonderful books, but now you've got another new book coming out on the laws of growth. So tell us about it.
Well, Joyce, you've written a lot of books also, and although you write a lot of books, there are some that you just know you're almost like called to write, and this is one of them. I'm passionate about growth, and I'm passionate about personal growth because I know what it's done in my life. It's kind of like when I know what it's done for me, I can hardly wait to share it with someone else because I know what it will do for them. And I had a very interesting encounter when I was in my 20s, back in 1972, 73. I was pastoring in Lancaster, Ohio, and I had a man have breakfast with me one morning, and he asked me a question that just totally took me unaware. He looked at me and said, John, what is your plan for personal growth? And Joyce, I didn't have one.
Duh.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was all but I'm young enough as a leader to think, how we did when we were younger. I thought I had to have an answer. When I started off as a leader, I thought I had to be Mr. Answer Man.
Yeah, right.
Now that I'm older, I have more questions than I have answers. You know how that works.
I don't know. I have no idea.
but when he asked me what my plan for personal growth is, I'll never forget, I started talking about what I did and what my ministry was all about and how hard I worked. And, and I was like a plane circling the airfield, just going around and around. We weren't getting anywhere. and probably after about 15 minutes of this conversation, I'm out of gas. I land that sucker.
He knew you didn't know anything.
Yeah, he knew. And he looked at me and he said, you don't have a plan for personal growth, do you? And 15 minutes later, he could have said, time out. Look, son, I know you have no plan. And then here's where he just helped me so much. He looked at me and he said, John, growth is not an automatic process. And Joyce, for the first time, it dawned on me that if I was going to grow, I had to be intentional.
That's good.
That it wasn't just going to happen to me because I lived. And I just want to just stop for long enough. I think a lot of people think that, well, if I just go to church and if I just go to work and if I just take care of the family, I'll grow. And I've come to the conclusion the only thing that's automatic after we're born is death.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't need to read a book on it. We don't need to take a course on it. We don't need to say, hey, do we have a
don't
mentor
have to
that
try
can
to do it.
No. Hey, what I say is hang around long enough and you get to do that. That's the only thing automatic. Well, that day when he said growth is not an automatic process, my mind was turned. I went home to Margaret and I said, I had a conversation with a guy today, and I shared with her what I just shared with you. And she said, well, we need to grow. And we're young, we're married, we're just one. She said, we need to grow. And I said, yeah, and we want to grow together. But I said, I don't know how to grow. And I literally went on a journey for the next 6 months. I went to all my friends. I said, do you have a plan for personal growth? And Joyce, not one of them had a plan for personal growth. And all of a sudden, I realized that if I was going to grow, I was going to have to develop a plan for how do I grow personally. Mm-hmm. And so this sounds very basic now, but it took me a long time to do this. I realized that if I developed a plan for growth, it was going to be something I had to do daily. Mm-hmm. Because you and I both know that you can't grow if it's spasmodic, or once a month I kind of go and read the Bible, or once a month I kind of pray. It's got to be daily. It had to be simple. And then I realized that it had to be in areas of my giftedness and strengths. Mm-hmm. Because we can learn a lot about a lot of things, but if it's not what my calling is, or if it's not where I'm gifted, although I may know it, it isn't going to really help me. So
you mean, John, there's no point in me trying to learn how to sing?
There is. Hey, trust me, there's no one that turned on the show today
to hear me sing
and say, boy, I hope Joyce breaks forth in song today. If she would just break forth in song, no, there's nobody waiting, or me. We're not going to do a duet.
Right.
We're not doing a duet, so you're safe. Anyway, that got me on a personal growth journey that literally changed my life. And as I look back today at books that I write and things that I say when I speak and teach, it all comes out of the fact that I have had, for now almost 40 years, a personal growth plan for myself. And all of a sudden it hit me, although I've been doing this for me, I've really never sat down and laid it out in a simple form of how a person can grow. And so I wrote the book, The 15 Laws of Personal Growth, which basically are laws that regardless of gender,
now,
regardless of culture.
What do you say when you mean a law? Because that word confuses some people.
What I mean is they work. It works every time. They work in every circumstances. They work. Hey, they work.
It's like gravity.
That's like gravity. So the laws work. It's not just a good idea, but it really works, and you have to apply them to. And if you apply them to your life, you're going to be better. If you don't apply them to your life, you're going to be without. So I literally woke up one morning about 3:30 in bed, and I put on my robe and I went down to my office and I began to write, and I wrote till noon, and by noon, I pretty well had formed these 15 laws of growth.
An outline for it.
And I'm so excited. For example, and the first one is the law.
I want to say something first, because I just think that this is, I want to make sure they're clear before we go any further. I bet when we first started talking about growth, a lot of people thought, well, I want to grow. I want my business to grow.
Yeah.
I want my personal finances to grow. I'd like to have a bigger house. I'd like it to grow. Yep. I'm watching my kids grow. Yep. But the thing that I want to establish is, before really any of that can grow, you have to grow.
Oh, it all begins with us.
So we can't try to.
Yep.
You got to start somewhere to get somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. When a pastor comes to me and asks me how he can grow his church, I say, grow yourself.
Yeah.
You cannot give what you do not have.
Right.
And when the business community, when a small businessman starts a business and he or she says, I want to grow my business, grow yourself. Right. So it all begins with
now
us.
Tell us these laws. I'm excited to hear
Thank you. And Joyce, the 15 laws are all about me growing me. Because if I do me right and take care of me right, then all the other good things will happen.
That's really good.
Law number one, this is also simple, is the law of intentionality, which just basically says growth doesn't just happen.
Right.
And I remember when I felt called into the ministry, and I remember my dad sitting down one day and said, John, you've now got a calling on your life. Now you just have to determine how great you're going to be in that calling if you're going to reach your potential.
That's good.
And he said, if you're going to reach your potential, he said, you're going to have to spend time every day with God. And I remember going to college as a freshman, and on the back of a campus was an old block house, right by the railroad tracks, right by the General Electric plant. Nothing to look at, just a little block room. And every day at 1 o'clock, after lunch, I'd take my Bible and take my pad, and I'd go back there to spend an hour.
That's good.
I was intentional.
That's great.
And very quickly I began to learn that because I blocked that time out and I was intentional, it was beginning to make some wonderful spiritual changes in my life.
That's awesome.
And so what I teach on the laws of growth is that growth isn't just going to happen because you want it to happen or you would certainly like to be like someone. One time I read that it was William James who said this. He said, most people are really desirous of changing their situation, but they're not near as excited about changing themselves.
Exactly.
And this is all about...
That's actually one of our biggest problems.
Yeah, well, of course it is. And this book is all about, let's change me. And the law of intentionality just says it's not going to be an accident. You can't wish it to happen. It isn't even going to happen because you get around other people that do grow. You're going to have to determine within yourself that you're going to make this decision. And I start that. I don't think that one law is more important than any other law, but here's what I know. If you don't start off with the law of intentionality and say, I am going to do this, and I'm going to do this on purpose, all the other laws will not work.
Well, I know we're not going to get to all 15 on this program, but so tell us two more. What are some of the most important out of the 15, do you think?
The law of awareness.
Yeah.
I have to know myself to grow myself.
That's very good.
And you and I know God created us. He gave us gifts. And I have to know what those are. I have to know what my passion is. And what I teach is, here's how you find your passion in this chapter, and here's how you find your gift mix, and here's how you find your strengths. And those are the areas you want to feed. You want to feed your passion, and you want to feed your gift mix.
And most people, when they think about growth, they think about overcoming their weaknesses.
And I teach the opposite. I really, because God, I heard you say this once. Joyce, you said this once. God's not going to hold us accountable for gifts that He didn't give us.
That's good.
And so my weak areas are my weak areas. And I'm never, even if I work on them, I'm never going to be as strong as I need to be.
And we're not talking about moral weakness, trying to overcome moral weakness, but we're talking about not trying to do things that I tried to learn how to play the guitar once because I just so much wanted to be, I wanted to be a worship leader and a preacher. I didn't want to just be a preacher.
Two in one?
Well, I have short fingers. My hands are really little, and I couldn't get them around the neck of the guitar. Plus, I failed music in school. Plus, I can't sing.
Other than that, no problem.
Other than that, there was no problem.
What I tell people to do is you have to grow in your strengths and your giftedness, and you want to grow in choices.
Yeah.
Choices such as my attitude, choices such as discipline in my life. So and the great thing about the things that I can choose, that I have choices over, I can grow very quickly in those. I mean, a person can literally almost overnight change an attitude because that's a choice. But in our strengths and our giftedness, and so what I'd basically say is, before you start growing, you got to start knowing who you are.
That's very good.
So get in touch with yourself for that, okay? And I think that's very important.
And a lot of people just don't like themselves so much that they don't even want to know themselves, so they won't even bother trying to get in touch with themselves.
And growth is impossible until we deal with ourselves.
Right.
And then another one is, and I love this one, is the law of reflection that says reflection allows growth to catch up with us. And basically what I teach them there is, we all have experiences every day. We all go through different things every day. Why is it that some people grow out of their experiences and some people don't?
Yeah.
And we hear people say, well, experience is the best teacher. I say, no, it isn't. Because if experience was the best teacher, then as we got older, we'd all be getting better. And Joyce, you and I know a lot of people, they're getting older and they're not getting better at all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So experience isn't the best teacher. Evaluated experience is the best teacher. And that's where
learning from your experience.
And that's where reflection comes in.
That's
because what happens is we all have our losses. The question is not what did you fail or did you mess up? The question is, what did you learn? And what I discovered a long time ago is, unless I stop and call time out on purpose and say, there are times in my day, there are times in my week where I just have to go and review and reflect and think about what I've learned from the Word. I've got to talk, but if I stop long enough and I evaluate that and reflect on that, meditate on it, it allows that growth to catch up with me, and then I learn from that.
Yeah.
And the question is always, what did you learn from what you've gone through?
You know how I learned how to treat people good?
How'd you learn?
By being in situations where I was treated bad.
Okay.
Literally being in situations, even within the church world, where I was treated bad, not appreciated, talked down to, disrespected, not paid what I probably should have. I mean, just a lot of different things. And, you know, I determined, because I really felt like God was calling me to manage a large ministry myself, and I knew we'd have a lot of people. And I determined through learning how that felt that I was never going to treat people that way.
Yeah, and that's a classic example of people say, well, that was a bad experience. All I've had is bad experiences. What you're doing is say, take all those bad experiences, reflect, and learn and pull the good out of them.
I could have just let it made me bitter.
Absolutely. It's a
resentful,
choice, isn't it?
And it would have really just knocked me out of the ball game. I would have never even got to do what God wanted me to do if I would have done that.
Here's what I know in closing on this. As I look at my life today and where I am, God has done so many more wonderful things for me than I could have ever imagined. I couldn't even do a goal-setting seminar with integrity, Joyce. I couldn't. I couldn't. And as I look and I say, why has this happened? It's because when I started off and I set my goals, I was in a very small world. But if you grow and you keep growing, you pass those goals and you just automatically reach out and expand and keep going. And as I look back, the goodness of God and my commitment to personal growth, I think, are the two main reasons why I am where I am today. And I'm very grateful for that.
Very good.
And what I love is it's a simple book which people can take those laws, apply it to themselves, and start growing.